Welcome, seekers of truth and self knowledge. In this journey of self inquiry, we embark on an investigation inspired by the teachings of Shri Siddharameshwar Maharaj into the profound question, who is this I? To explore this question, let's begin with a story. Once, in a small town called Andheri, a man named Gomaji Ganesh managed to establish a unique tradition in the courts of law. He created a stamp bearing his name, Gomaji Ganesh the Brass Door, which he insisted was required for every legal document. Over time, officials blindly accepted this stamp as a necessary mark of authenticity, and it became deeply embedded in the legal system. No one questioned it until one day a man bravely challenged its legitimacy. This led to an investigation that revealed Gomaji Ganesh had no real authority, yet his stamp had been imposed as an essential requirement. In the same way, we must inquire into the stamp of our own identity, the I, that seems to dominate our lives, but which has gone unquestioned. Just as with the story of Gomaji Ganesh, our sense of I acts as a stamp, claiming ownership and asserting mine over everything. Yet have we ever stopped to ask, who or what is this I? In the journey of self-inquiry, spiritual wisdom teaches us to examine the four bodies that veil our true identity. Each of these bodies creates a layer of perception, obscuring our awareness of who we truly are. By understanding and peeling away these layers, we can uncover the real self. Before diving into these four bodies, consider a principle that Maharaj uses to explain the nature of I. In our world, whenever two elements come together, they create something new, a third thing that takes on its own identity, separate from its parts. For instance, a piece of thread combined with flowers becomes a garland. And while the garland holds its own name, the original names thread and flowers fade from our minds. In another example, when earth and water mix, we get mud, and we no longer think separately of earth and water. This blending happens over and over in life, such as when a jeweler shapes gold into an ornament. Once we see a ring or a bracelet, we may forget the gold and the jeweler who created it. In much the same way, Maharaj explains that the I or ego, the part of us that says, I am the doer, is a product of two forces, Brahma or pure consciousness, and Maya or illusion. But this I is like a shadow, a creation of elements that seem to blend into something real, when in truth it has no separate existence. The ego is born from illusion, and yet it insists on its sovereignty over everything. This illusory I takes pride in its doership, in its ability to claim, I did this, and yet the source of all action remains Brahma, the ultimate consciousness, which is beyond attachment or identity. However, identifying with this I binds us to the outcomes of our actions, subjecting us to the cycles of pleasure, pain, birth, and death. To break free, we need to look deeply at this I and understand where it actually resides. Shri Siddharameshwar Maharaj guides us through the investigation of the four bodies that shape our experience and hold the potential keys to unveiling our true self beyond the ego. Let's look at the four bodies. They are the physical or gross body. This is the body we most identify with. The physical, tangible form made of flesh, blood, and bones. But does this body truly define who we are? Or is it just a vessel we use to experience the material world? Second, the subtle body, which is composed of our thoughts, emotions, and mental faculties. The subtle body is the source of our feelings, memories, and desires. It shapes much of our perception, yet remains intangible. How much of this subtle energy and mind truly defines us? Third, the causal body. It is often hidden from our everyday awareness. The causal body represents our deep-rooted karmic patterns and unconscious impulses. It holds the seeds of tendencies and influences that shape our lives. Yet, it's not fully us either. Fourth, the great causal body or Turiya. This fourth body represents the state beyond ordinary perception, where consciousness is all encompassing, detached, and pure. Here, individual identity dissolves, revealing the universal essence that transcends all duality. To understand the I, we must look beyond these layers and question how each of these bodies has shaped our understanding of ourselves. Through this inquiry, we can uncover our true nature beyond the ego and embrace a state of pure awareness. As we continue this journey, we seek to move past the levels of I and mine, uncovering a self that is eternal and beyond identification with any temporary form. Only by shedding these illusions can we come to know our real identity, our true essence, beyond all worldly attachments and limitations. This is the path of self-inquiry and the ultimate realization of who we are beyond all material and mental constructs. Let us begin our journey of self-inquiry by closely examining the physical gross body, the body we see, touch, and call our own. At first glance, it seems so close to us that we identify it as I. But upon deeper investigation, can we truly find the I within this body? What is this body? It is simply an assembly of parts: hands, feet, eyes, ears, nose, and countless other components. We call it my body, much like we say my hands or my eyes. Notice the subtle distinction. The one claiming ownership of these parts is different from the parts themselves. If these body parts are mine, who is the one making this claim? By this reasoning, the I cannot reside in any part of the body, nor in the body as a whole. There is a universal truth that says, where there is no I, there can be no mine. The I is not a part of the gross physical body. None of the limbs or organs can claim to be I. In fact, we naturally refer to them as mine, like my hand or my leg. But here's the question: if I cannot be found anywhere in the body, how can we truly call the body or its tendencies our own? If you still insist that this body is yours, it's worth asking yourself why. Look closely at the lives of those who believe their body defines them. They are tied to it, its joys, its struggles, and its eventual decay. Despite this, human beings mistakenly take pride in their bodies, identifying with them as I. This error leads to attachment, misperception, and suffering. Sometimes as humans, sometimes as other beings. Imagine the suffering. Being a worm in filth, a bullock tied to a mill, or a donkey burdened with garbage. After enduring countless such lives, the good fortune of a human birth arises. The great Lord grants a wonderful thing called the higher intellect to human being that he has not given to any other species. The purpose of that gift of higher intellect is for the human being to be able to realize the divine nature of the self and put an end to this demeaning show. However, the human being misuses this great gift of the intellect. He looks upon a gutter as the Ganges and the body as God and only spoils it further. They treat the body like ultimate reality, adorning and worshipping it as if it were God. They call another body mine, then create families and build attachments, only to face inevitable loss and suffering. Maharaj compares this attachment to a vulgar festival play where a character dressed absurdly with black pant and rags parades through the streets believing itself to be dignified. Similarly, humans dress their bodies, celebrate them, and yet fail to see that they are simply temporary vehicle, a passing show. The body is not ours. Then to whom does the body belong? Who is the owner of the body? It belongs to the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. At death, these elements reclaim their respective parts, dismantling the so-called bundle of the body. Just as a bundle of cloth disappears once the fabric is untied, the body vanishes into its elements, leaving nothing behind. This type of body, consisting of a bundle of the 5 elements, cannot support any pride of I or an ego, nor can it sustain the relationship that existed due to the identification with the body, such as birth and death, or the 6 passions: greed, anger, desire, hatred, craving, and pride that affect the body. This cannot be related to any me as being mine. So can the I truly reside in the something so impermanent? The answer is no. The qualities of the body, whether youthful or old, diseased or healthy, fair or dark, belong only to the body, not to the I. When we realize this, the attachment to the body dissolves naturally. Additionally, we can easily see that someone else's beautiful, cute, bony baby is of no value to us compared to our own dark, stocky boy who has pockmarks and a flowing, dirty nose. We do not suffer if someone else's sweet child dies as much as we suffer if our own old shoes gets lost. The reason for this is that we do not have the same sense of possessions or mind for the other person. Once we truly understand that the body is not mine, and belongs to the five elements, a shift begins to happen within us. When something is recognized as belonging to another, we naturally lose our obsessive attachment to it. Gradually, we may even feel indifferent or disinterested in it. In this way, understanding that the body is someone else's property frees us from clinging to it. But leaving the body doesn't mean harming it. No pushing it into a well or hanging it with a noose. Leaving the body means seeing it for what it truly is and gaining the wisdom to step beyond it. When we recognize the body as a temporary vessel, our obsessive interest in it naturally fades. This deeper understanding leads to true renunciation, not by destruction but by discrimination, the ability to discern the real from the unreal. Destroying the body physically only guarantees the continuation of the cycle of rebirth. True liberation comes from understanding the body's nature while we still live in it. This realization allows the body, rather than becoming the cause of more births, to be the key to liberation itself. Through this process of thoughtful inquiry, what Sri Samarth Ramdas called vichara or self-inquiry, we dissolve the pride and possessiveness surrounding the body. When we see clearly what the body is, the sense of mind vanishes on its own. This mental renunciation, this dissolution by thought, is the key to freedom. One who dies with this clarity of understanding is liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Thoughtfulness then is the ultimate tool for human fulfillment. By thoroughly investigating the body, by dissecting it through wisdom, it becomes clear that the I cannot be found there. And with that realization, we take the next step on the journey of self-inquiry, moving beyond the physical to discover the true nature of the self. Now, let us move deeper into the investigation of the subtle body. Using the same method of dissolution by thought to uncover whether the I exists here, what exactly is the subtle body and what does it contain? Let's break it down. The subtle body is essentially a committee of 17 components, working together to govern our inner and outer experiences. These components include the 5 senses of action, like hands, feet, mouth, genitals, and anus. These are the tools through which we act upon the world. Secondly, the 5 senses of knowledge: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. The instruments through which we perceive and gather information. Thirdly, the 5 vital breaths or pranas: Vayanavayu, which circulates nutrients throughout the body; Samana Vayu, located in the navel, aiding digestion and balance. Udana Vayu, found in the throat, responsible for upward movement like speech. Apana Vayu, in the bowels, managing downward forces like excretion. Prana Vayu, the breath itself, sustaining life through inhalation and exhalation. Fourthly, the mind or manas, the realm of thoughts, emotion and desires. And the final one is the intellect or buddhi, the faculty of discrimination, reasoning and decision making. Together, these 17 elements make up the subtle body, the unseen yet powerful force behind our actions, perceptions, and inner experiences. Now the question arises, can the I be found in any of these components? Is the I hidden in the senses, the breaths, the mind, or the intellect? Let's begin this inquiry step by step, examining each of these elements to uncover the truth. If the I cannot be traced here, just as it couldn't be found in the gross body, then we must look even deeper, and this is the essence of self-inquiry, discerning the real from the unreal, peeling away each layer to find the true self. The subtle body acts as the command center, issuing orders that the gross body dutifully executes. But this subtle force, though harder to unravel than the gross body, can also be untied through thoughtful inquiry. Think of the subtle body as a delicate silk knot. It may seem intricate, but with effort and understanding, it too can be opened. Once the components of the subtle body are examined and understood, attachment to it dissolves naturally. The subtle body is the seed of both birth and death, rooted in desire. However, when this seed is roasted in the fire of knowledge, it becomes incapable of sprouting, even if it appears outwardly unchanged. This transformation brings freedom, but some may wonder if both the gross and subtle bodies are renounced and the pride of I and mind is abandoned, will action stop or become ineffective? To resolve this doubt, consider this analogy. Suppose someone treasures an object, believing it is made of gold. Upon discovering it is actually brass, they may still keep it in a locker or move it elsewhere, but their attachment to it diminishes or disappears altogether. Similarly, when one realizes the body is not mine, its actions continue, but the burden of attachment fades. Nothing of true value is lost. As Saint Tukaram said, "Let the body live or die. I have complete faith in my self-nature." This state of unwavering trust in one's true essence is transformative. When an aspirant reaches this conviction, they begin to ask, What does it matter what happens to the body when I am experiencing the bliss of Brahma? Take the example of Saint Kabir. When a dog bit a piece of flesh from his leg, Kabir remarked, either the dog knows or the flesh knows, anything is possible. He was completely detached from the body, seeing it as separate from his true nature. While such profound renunciation may feel far-reaching to those beginning the journey of self-enquiry, it is an ideal to aspire toward. With God's grace, the aspirant may experience moments of deep bliss that dissolves worldly attachments. When this happens, questions like, will my house run properly? Or what will happen to my possessions? Lost their significance. At that stage, the seeker embraces a state of surrender, saying, let whatever is to happen, happen, and let whatever has to go, go. This level of detachment allows the aspirant to move closer to understanding the self, breaking free from the identification with the subtle body and continuing the search for the true I. The aspirant may wonder, after realizing the self and letting go of the pride and possessiveness of the body and mind, can one still perform worldly duties effectively? To address this, the Sadguru provides reassurance. Of course, even after recognizing the body's and mind's transience, one can carry out all worldly responsibilities, establish a household, and raise children without any sense of I or mine. In fact, these duties may even be performed with greater efficiency. This principle can be understood through the example of a nurse caring for a motherless infant. The nurse feeds the child, comforts it, and tends to it when it is unwell. Duties are akin to those of a mother. If she grows fond of the child, she may even display affection, kissing it lovingly. Yet, she performs all these tasks without any sense of mind. If the child's father dismisses her from the role, she departs without attachment, neither rejoicing if the child thrives, nor grieving if the child suffers. Her detachment does not diminish the sincerity or thoroughness of her care. Similarly, the human body and mind can be treated as tools entrusted to the individual, like a keepsake. If the body and mind are maintained in good health and balance, they can serve as valuable instruments in the search for the ultimate truth. A healthy body supports spiritual practice, while excessive identification with it hinders progress by reinforcing the illusion of separateness and obscuring the self. Thus, one can fulfill all physical and mental obligations diligently without cultivating a sense of ownership or attachment to the body and mind. The understanding that I am not the body or the mind allows one to transcend the false identification, ensuring that actions are performed with sincerity, yet free from the bondage of pride or possession. This approach supports both worldly responsibilities and spiritual liberation, as it keeps the focus on the true self. After relinquishing the possessive pride over the gross and subtle bodies and acknowledging that these bundles belong to another, the seeker must still confront the lingering question, who am I? Or where am I? To delve deeper, we turn to the causal body. What is this causal body? Here the journey takes us into a realm of pitch darkness, a vast void of ignorance. Could it be that this darkness is where the elusive I resides? It appears that this I has taken ignorance as its primary domain, its central trait, and perhaps its ultimate refuge. In this space, even the concept of mind is absent, unlike in the gross and subtle bodies, where the I bodily proclaims itself through identification and attachment. Here it is silent, completely hidden, as if playing a clever game of hide and seek. It seems the I has burrowed deep into the trench of this ignorance, hoping to evade discovery. Many seekers stumble here, losing their way in the profound stillness and darkness of the causal body. Some turn back, doubting their journey or lacking faith in guidance. But, dear aspirant, take heart. The Sadguru, your enlightened guide, stands with you, illuminating the path through this darkness. Many have faltered here, failing to recognize the necessity of steadfastness and surrender to the guidance of a capable master, a Samarth Sadguru, one who is both powerful and self-realized. For those who continue their search with courage and trust, a breakthrough occurs. In the quiet depths of this darkness, a subtle awareness begins to stir. A voice emerges softly declaring, I am the witness of this ignorance. This realization brings hope, reigniting the search. The seeker begins to sense that the elusive I is not lost, but observing from beyond this void. It is close, perhaps just beyond this layer of ignorance, watching silently. This witnessing comes from a higher perspective, beyond the emptiness of the causal body, from the realm of the great causal body, also known as the Turiya or transcendental state. With this understanding, the seeker is overwhelmed with a profound revelation. The I is no longer elusive. It is found in its pure essence, beyond the body and mind. In that moment of discovery, indescribable joy arises as the I declares in triumph, I am Brahma, I am self-knowledge. The one who proclaims I is none other than the all-encompassing witness, Brahma. This I is the essence of pure awareness. the ever-present sense of I am. When this truth is firmly realized, waves of boundless bliss arise, engulfing the seeker in joy. Yet, as the bliss recedes, a profound miracle is unveiled. Through deep inquiry and discriminative thought or vichar, one comes to see I am not even of the nature of knowledge, just as I am not of ignorance. Both ignorance and knowledge are mere coverings over my true nature. I was never defined by them. They arose within me and were mistakenly identified as me. Through this understanding, it becomes clear that ignorance and knowledge are creations that emerge from within the self. As their creator, the self precedes them and is utterly distinct from both. Knowledge, like a child, arises from the self as its source. Yet the self remains ever prior, untainted, and untouched by its offspring. The journey through the gross, subtle, and causal and great causal bodies reveals the ultimate truth. The I we search for is neither the body, the mind, nor even knowledge itself. It is the eternal, witnessing self Brahma. When this realization matures, even the notion of I am Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, which signifies self-knowledge in the Turiya state, begins to dissolve. Eventually, all levels and coverings are cast aside, leaving the I completely naked, stripped of all concepts, including ignorance and knowledge. At this stage, the true nature of the self defies all descriptions. This I cannot be captured by words, thoughts, or definitions. Any attempt to describe it fails, for it transcends all concepts and forms. It can only be expressed as not this, neti neti. The one that illumines everything, yet remains beyond all that is illuminated. It is eternal witness, the light behind all experience, and yet it is none of those experiences. To truly grasp this essence, one must abandon all words, thoughts, and intellectual constructs, and instead merge into the profound stillness of deep silence. There, in that infinite stillness, one comes face to face with the ultimate truth, the Self, Brahman, unshaken, eternal, and boundless. This is who I truly am. The journey inward from the gross body to the great causal body is a path to uncovering the deepest truth of who we really are. The I we hold so tightly to is not the body, the mind, or even the knowledge itself. It is the eternal, witnessing self, pure, boundless, and free. When we dissolve the false layers of identity, we awaken to the truth that we are one with the infinite, unchanging Brahman. This realization is not just philosophical, it is liberation itself. Through the practice of self-inquiry, we begin to shed the illusions of mind and I, stepping beyond attachments, fears, and limitations. This is not about abandoning life. It's about living with clarity, freedom, and true purpose. The answers you seek lie within you. Take the first step inward and let the light of your own self guide you to the ultimate truth.